Hello, everybody. Let's go ahead and talk about the assignment called IV, DV, and control group practice. In this case, IV means independent variable, DV means dependent variable, and then the control group we'll talk about. Let's just review those definitions really quickly. An independent variable, I'm going to write them right up at the top here. The independent variable is what the researcher, it could be you, researcher is purposely changing. The dependent variable is what they are measuring. It's the results of the experiment. And then the control group is the normal situation. So that'll make sense in just a minute. So let's practice a few of these. So let's take a look at these experiments. It says Justin wants to determine the effect of fertilizer on the growth of grass. So he's wondering if fertilizer makes grass grow more. So he is going to mess around with the amount of fertilizer to see what impact it has on how tall the grass grows. So right now you need to write IV above the independent variable and DV above the dependent variable. So what he's going to be changing, what the researcher is purposely changing, Justin is his name, that's the amount of fertilizer that he's going to be using. And then his results, what he's measuring, that's the dependent variable, the growth of grass. So what would his control group be? What's the normal situation for grass? Well, grass normally grows with no fertilizer. Grass just grows normally in the soil without any fertilizer. When we add the fertilizer, that's his experiment. What impact is adding fertilizer going to have? All right, you're going to see a pattern. You're going to start to see that this is really repetitive. Number 2, Randall wants to determine if salinity, saltiness, has an effect on his goldfish. So if the water is salty, what does that do to his goldfish? So he's going to mess around with how salty the water is and then look at the impact on the health of his goldfish. So what he's purposely changing is the salinity. That's his independent variable. And what the results or what he's measuring is the health of his goldfish. So that's the dependent variable. Oops, why is that not working? Dependent variable. There we go. All right, so then what would the control group be? What's the normal situation for goldfish? Well, goldfish are a freshwater fish. They don't normally live in the ocean. So that would be no salt in the water. That's the normal situation. So Randall is going to have normal fresh water for his goldfish, and he's going to see how well the goldfish do. And then he's going to start adding salt and see how well the goldfish do. The control group is the no salt, so he can compare the guys that are swimming in no salt to the ones that are swimming in salty water to see how they do. Oops, the lights went out on me again. Okay, let's go. James wants to know, I'm on number 3, the effect of studying an extra 10 minutes each day on his biology grade. So these don't have to be super profound experiments that just a scientist does. They're experiments that you and I do all the time. So what is he going to change? He's going to change how much he's studying. He's going to be adding 10 minutes extra each day. So that's his independent variable. And what he's measuring is his biology grade. That's his dependent variable. So then what's the control group? Well, that's interesting. The control group is how much he studies under normal circumstances. So we'll just say normal studying. If that's less than, he's going to add these extra 10 minutes, then it's the normal amount of studying that he does. And then he's going to compare that to when he studied 10 extra minutes to see if his biology grade improved. All right, number 4, Joelle wants to determine the effect of pesticides. Pesticides are bug killers that we spray on farms and things like that, on the size of apples in the orchard. So what she's going to change is pesticides, whether or not we're using pesticides, and then she's going to look at how big are the apples and do the apples get bigger or smaller with the use of pesticides. So the thing we're purposely changing is the pesticides, and the size of apples is what we're going to measure. That's the dependent variable. So what's the control group? How do apples normally grow? When they're in a normal situation, they grow with no pesticides. That's the normal situation for those apples. All right, Billy wants to know if increasing his exercise will decrease the time it takes him to run a kilometer. So, what he's going to be changing each time is his exercise. So, he's going to be increasing his exercise. That's the independent variable. And then what he's going to measure is the amount of time it takes him to run a kilometer. That's his dependent variable. He's hoping more exercise will be faster time. So, what's the control group there? He's talking about increasing his exercise. So, you could say the control group is no exercise. I would be okay with that. Or you could say normal exercise. So, let's just go with his normal exercise. That's his control group. However much he normally exercises, how fast is he when he runs the kilometer? Now, let's compare that to him exercising more, maybe half an hour or an hour more. How does that affect his time running a kilometer? Okay, now if you notice, they're going to get just a teeny bit harder because they're not bold anymore. So number 6 says, Angel wants to know if the type of detergent has an effect on the cleanliness of her clothes. So what she's going to purposely change is her type of detergent. And what she's going to check is how clean are her clothes? That's her results. That's the dependent variable. So what's the control group? That's a little tricky because you wouldn't normally, like, I think clothes, we're usually washing them in something. So let's say her control group is her normal detergent. And then what she's going to change is she's going to try different types of detergent and compare them to her normal detergent. The control group gives us something to compare to. Okay, Madison wants to determine if the weight of the dog will have an effect on the number of puppies in the litter. So, what's going to be purposely changing? Well, that's interesting because Madison isn't changing the weight on purpose. Madison is just looking at the different weights, but it's still the weight of the dog. That's still what's going to be different each time, is how much the dog weighs. And then what Madison is going to be measuring is how many puppies there are in the litter. So I'm going to write DV down here. That's what she's going to be measuring. So the control group, again, it's tricky. What is the control group here? It's a normal weight dog. So a dog that is a normal weight. A dog that is a normal weight, not heavy or thin. Okay. All right, number 8. Zach wants to determine if the amount of time spent on social media has an effect on anxiety levels. Just this week, the Surgeon General, who's an important person in our country, came out with information about the impact of social media on teenagers and how social media use increases anxiety and depression, makes levels of anxiety and depression skyrocket. If you're struggling with mental health, think about how much you're on social media and see if maybe that's something that you could step away from. Okay, so he's going to change the amount of time spent on social media. That's what he's going to be changing each time. And then what he's going to be looking is the effect on anxiety levels. So I'll maybe put DV down here. That's what he's measuring, is anxiety levels. The control group would be no social media use. That's what's normal. I know that sounds funny. Normal is actually like 3 hours a day or more. Some people constantly all day long. But technically, the normal state for a human being is to not be on social media. That's normal. All right, number 9, Connor wants to determine if the diet of a rat has an effect on the rat's overall health. There should be an apostrophe there. On the rat's overall health. So what he's going to change is the diet. So that will be the independent variable. The overall health is the dependent variable. Oops, he's going to be measuring. Why is that not working for me? There we go. Dependent variable is the overall health. How healthy are those rats? So what's the control group here? Well, it's whatever is a normal diet for the rats, and that would be difficult to know, but the diet that they would have in the wild, and then he's going to change different types of diets, maybe a fattier diet or a more vegetarian diet, and see what impact that has on the rats. Okay, last one, everybody. We're almost done. Allison wants to determine if the deer population in the area is influenced by the coyote population. All right, this is tricky. She's not purposely changing anything. She's just watching as things change. What impact does that have on something else? And this one is written backwards. What is actually changing that's causing the change? So the coyote population is actually the independent variable this time. The coyote population is changing, and what she's going to do is measure the deer population. That's the result. What impact does the coyote, oops, that's supposed to say DV. What impact does the change in the coyote population have on the deer population? They can be written backwards, KJ. They can. They're not always independent variable followed by dependent variable. Okay, and then what's the control group? Again, that's a little bit tricky to say, but I would say a normal coyote population. So not high, not a huge population, but also not a really small population. So whatever the coyote population was, maybe before humans came in and started killing them off or interfering in the ecosystem, that would be a normal coyote population. Okay, everybody, let me know if you have any questions. That's it.